Welcome to Living Well with MS Coffee Break. I'm your host Jeff Alex. We decided to do something a little different in expanding the range of content we produce here at Living Well with MS. Since our community forms the beating heart of overcoming MS, we are commencing this special series called Coffee Break, which features short interviews with members of the OMS community talking about their personal journeys adopting and staying on the OMS 7-step recovery program, the challenges they encountered and how they overcame them, and their tips and tricks for sticking to the path that leads to better health. We hope you enjoy and learn from these brief chats between our regular episodes, and as always, your comments and suggestions are welcome by emailing podcast@overcomingms.org. That's podcast@overcomingms.org. And don't forget, if you enjoy these and other Living Well with MS podcast episodes, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast listening platform. Natalie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your life, where you live, and anything about yourself that you'd like to share with us?
I'm currently in a little place called Los Gallardos, which is the Almeria area of Spain. I'm here with my dad. Well, it's my parents' place, but I'm just here with my dad because my mum's stuck in the UK. I ended up here, sort of a bit of a long story, but going back a few years, I ended up sort of selling my house because my relationship broke down. You have to sort of sell the house. And it was a case of, I had sort of a big chunk of money, but not really enough to do anything in the UK. And I'd always wanted to travel. And after chatting with a friend, she sort of planted a seed because she just said an off-the-cuff remark of, "Oh, the world's your oyster." And I kind of jokingly said to her, "Oh yeah, me and Milo, we get a camper van and drive around the world till I run out of money, and then we'll just do a Thelma and Louise," and sort of joking, obviously. And then I was kind of thinking about it and thought, well, actually, why not? So sort of jumping forward a few years after going through that was sort of before diagnosis. So after diagnosis, everything kind of went a bit, all my plans went a bit wrong. And I didn't think I'd be able to go. But then I managed to get a 6-month career break from work, went halves with my parents on a motorhome, and I had it for 6 months and drove around sort of Spain and Portugal, and then back through France, back to the UK for July last year. And after being at work, I basically decided that, well, I think I'm gonna leave and get my own smaller camper van and just go. So that's how I've ended up here. Obviously, if I hadn't been locked down, I wouldn't be staying at my parents' place. I'd be travelling around and seeing places. I very nearly got a ferry over to Ibiza, but that didn't happen, luckily. Otherwise, I would have probably been stuck there because I'd have been there when it got locked down. So that wouldn't have been much fun. And then sort of going back, I mean, family-wise, I grew up in a small Berkshire village near Reading. Just my mum and dad and sister. I think as far as I'm aware, I'm the first one in the family to have MS. I don't really know much about sort of going back further in the family, so might not be, but yeah, that's how I've sort of ended up here. Yeah.
And when were you diagnosed with MS? And since then, how long have you been following the OMS 7-step recovery program?
So I was officially diagnosed in sort of August 17. So it's coming up 3 years now. I think I've got a second bout of optic neuritis in the June. The first one was actually 10 years before. But where I'd had problems getting to actually see a specialist, so I ended up going private through my work insurance. And then after being officially diagnosed, they had to refer me back to the NHS, so I didn't actually see a proper MS neurologist till like the November. So that would have been from originally having the optic neuritis, would have been about 5 months. So that was a very sort of stressful time. I think during that time as well, probably because when I look back, a lot of the sort of previously things that I now know would probably have been considered relapses were all around kind of stressful times. And obviously going through all the stress, I think there were a lot of cock-ups with appointments and things, and I was messed about. So I think I had burning in my feet for ages then as well. But I'm lucky enough that my symptoms have mainly been sensory, so I've never had any mobility issues. So that's sort of a positive. But I think while I was waiting for that neurology appointment, a friend at work who actually had MS, she said about, you can get a free book, Overcoming MS. And okay, so I got that, started reading it. And I think January time, I decided I sort of transitioned onto it, diet. So kind of just sort of changed what I bought really. Didn't buy any more dairy or meat and changed onto the diet. So that would have been the January 18. So that was sort of coming up to 2.5 years now. So I think also just before, even after I was diagnosed, but before I started OMS, I'd already started taking up sort of a yoga class. So that was a good introduction to the kind of meditation side of things. And also as well in the January time, I think I started going to my local MS therapy centre as well. So doing the oxygen therapy, reflexology, acupuncture, the various things they had on offer there. And also I think I sort of had an appointment with the counsellor they had there, but I only actually saw him the once because by that time I think taken on OMS and doing the other things, and I was just feeling a lot more positive, so I didn't actually need that anymore. Yeah.
And what's your favourite thing about the programme, and what do you feel has made the biggest positive impact?
I think for me it's just basically the taking control of it, not having to rely on other people like the doctors, nurses, drugs. Cause I was on Copaxone for 6 months, but then I chose to come off that. So it just gave me the sort of, it empowered me really to take control and help myself. And then it gave me back my freedom to be able to go on, do the travelling that I wanted to do. Because I literally have the one neurology appointment a year, and I don't have to, apart from that, I sort of manage it all myself. I don't have to rely on anyone. It's just sort of like the vitamins and thing, and the food and the meditation, which I can just kind of do myself in my own time. I don't have to worry about appointments and blood tests and things like that. Yeah.
And what's been the biggest challenge in adopting the OMS program, and how did you overcome that?
I thought it would be the food, because I've always pretty much, I've always sort of loved my food, but actually I found that I adapted pretty quickly to that, and it was surprisingly easy. I think because where I read the book and you understood the reasoning behind it, I found that, I was surprised how easily I got into that. Also as well, I think I've always been a natural cook and quite sort of creative, so that was quite easy. So the biggest challenge actually, probably the meditation. I think I did from when I was kind of travelling last year, just kind of walking on a beach and stood there in the sea and looking out at the ocean and breathing. That would kind of be my meditation. When you sort of get back into, normal life, it's just sort of finding that sort of 15, 20 minutes where you're not going to be disturbed. I mean, for me, it sort of tends to be the dog's likely to be jumping on me or something. So I can't imagine if you had sort of children, it would be a lot harder. And also I think you can have days when, it's quite hard just, you have so much sort of running through your head and just trying to sort of shut that off and do that. So that's probably the hardest thing really, trying to get into good habit with that and then do it well. Which I think I've also found like guided meditation. I think trying to find, a voice that you like, that's nice to listen to. So I've sort of found one now, which I've got on my phone, and so I can just lie in the sun and put that on, and that's sort of about 25 minutes, I think. So when it's all sort of quiet, I'll go and lay down and do that. And that's sort of my meditation, but that was the hardest thing.
And so this is being recorded at pretty much the height of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. And that's really affecting almost everyone in the world's lifestyle. So how have you had to adapt your daily habits to the restrictions with COVID-19?
I think, well, actually here in Spain, I think they're even stricter than they've been in the UK. So up until literally Saturday, you couldn't even go for a walk. But I mean, luckily I've got the dog, so I made sure I was sort of going out for a walk with him. But again, I mean, officially you're only meant to do sort of 50 metres from your house, so I was probably going a lot further. So I managed to, that wasn't too bad. But I mean, I'd love to be able to sort of drive down the beach and take him along the beach, but I can't do that. I think as well, mentally, I found sort of at the beginning, I wasn't worried so much about the actual virus itself. I was more worried, because I've got friends out here that work in bars and restaurants and things, and they obviously couldn't work. So I was kind of worrying about them, and at the time they didn't know if they were going to get paid and what would happen. So, and then you've got the news, you've got the radio on, you've got the telly on, and it's all the news on there, and it's all very depressing and can really kind of drag you down, and you get quite overwhelming. So I think I've had to kind of limit myself to that, limit the time that I sort of see any news, and sometimes just sort of walk away or turn it off, because otherwise it just becomes too overwhelming, and it's, can drag you right down. Also, I think probably on the plus side, obviously it gives you lots of time to experiment with sort of cooking and creating new things. So I've done quite a lot with that. I think I've made some nice new recipes. I've got a nice sort of vegan alioli that I've made, as I can't go to the restaurants and have it. So yeah, it's not been too bad. It's also, I've been doing an online course actually, which is was two. There's a holistic nutrition and then plant-based nutrition. So I've had a chance to sort of do quite a bit of that and get that done. So I think it's I kind of think there's nothing you can do about it. You can't change it. It is what it is. So you just got to kind of get on and make the most of it, really. So yeah, I think I've got used to it now. It'll be strange when it opens up again and can go out.
Yeah. And do you have any other tips or tricks that you could share with the audience that might help them on their OMS journey? I'd
probably say anyone sort of new starting the programme. It took me a couple of months to sort of get through the book, but there's then after that I found a great YouTube video, which is the beginner's guide, about 45 minutes, and that's really good to sort of watch that as well. Also, I sent that to my parents and my sister so they could watch it, and then they could understand what I was doing. They could understand why I wasn't eating that, and I wasn't just being awkward. It wasn't a fad diet. It was, there were reasons behind it. Then I found after I sent that to them, they kind of understood. So they tend to be a lot more supportive. So if I was going out to dinner with my parents or something, then I'd sort of check the menu and be like, oh, there's not really anything I can have. Like, can we go somewhere else? And they'd be fine with it. Or my mum would check with me, are you okay to go here? And so they'd be much more supportive, saying, and that's always, that's worth sort of showing to people so they understand and know why you're doing it and things. Also, I think there's other things I found quite useful is, there's some good sort of informative documentaries out there, like the HEAL one, which is all, sort of power of the mind and positivity and the forks over knives and things like that. And also just, I think we can be our own harshest critics, really. So, if you're having a bad day and you do something that you shouldn't, or, just, move on, go forward and, don't beat yourself up about it. So yeah, that would be it, really.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And thank you for joining us for the OMS Coffee Break.